Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have a This Is Not a Top 10, and it's going to be a video that sort of organically grew out of one of my previous reviews, Papillon's Anubis, which when I got to that fragrance, I thought, you know what? There was a note in here that absolutely deserves to be highlighted in one of these This Is Not a Top 10 videos, and that is the note of suede. Now, it's interesting because a lot of people kind of lump suede in with leather, but honestly, it's its own separate category. It deserves to have its own separate standing and to be sort of discussed and honored, if you will. So suede in a perfume basically has this almost velvety, silken feel mixed with leather is the way that I think of it. So if you've ever felt suede, I think all of us have probably felt suede at this point, unless you're like a very young child watching this video, which this video is not made for children. But suede basically has this finish that is like, it almost feels fuzzy, if you will. You know, like if you move your hand this way, the suede kind of goes this way. If you move it that way, it feels like it kind of goes that way. And it's sometimes referred to, I guess, in the industry as naped, or I guess it's pronounced napped. I don't know. But this almost like cottony mixed leather. It's almost like a cottony leather that feels very fuzzy. And when you smell it, though, it comes across as being much more silkenly smooth, almost like you're taking velvet. So it always throws me back to Coming to America. What is that? Velvet? There's definitely this like velvet feel of suede mixed with leather. And you know what? Suede is a underutilized note in perfumery. Some of these, This Is Not a Top 10 videos, are huge, right? I did one, it was a top 197, to be fair. That was Labdanum, and I have a ton of Labdanum fragrances in the collection, but with suede, this is only going to be a top 19. Now, before we do the list, okay, and this is according to Parfumo, by the way. I'm a huge Parfumo advocate. And I love Parfumo. I love their site. I love how fast everything loads. I love all of it. And I wish more people used it because I really do feel like all the site needs is more people using it, doing reviews and stuff like that. And it's basically there. It is the superior of the three sites to me between Fragrantica, Base Notes, and Parfumo. So I use Parfumo when kind of looking all this stuff up, but that doesn't mean they're perfect in every aspect, so take that with a grain of salt. So this is just according to Parfumo, top 19. This is not a top 10 suede video ranked. But before we start, we're going to do scent of the day and some honorary mentions. So scent of the day is actually a scent that I have grown to absolutely love and adore, so much so that getting a full bottle of this is high on my to wish list. You know, if I could score a full bottle of this, it would make me very happy because I'm always worried about running out, especially because I have no clue how much is in here. And look at the presentation. I mean, for a 10 mil, this is absolutely beautiful. And it's called Chinese Oud by the house of Areej Dore. And this stuff is absolute perfection for an oud fragrance for me. I think a lot of people overlook this because it doesn't open up with a huge shout. I think it takes the fragrance a little bit to kind of warm up on your skin before some of those heavier, smokier elements of the oud start to show themselves. Because at first you kind of get a smooth, woody, but mixed with this very old school aldehydic orangey like opening. The Kafkaesque lady, who I really rate her nose very highly, Kafkaesque blog, she said that this reminds her of an old extrait of like a Guerlain way back from the past, like 100 years ago. Very interesting take. I said something very similar about antiquity. She said it about Chinese oud, but this was a collaboration piece that he made with one of his friends who was like a expert in Chinese oud, and this is a very rare wild Hainan Chinese oud. I have reviewed it, but it was one of my earlier reviews. Probably doesn't have the detail of maybe some of my newer reviews, but I can tell you that Chinese oud is absolutely phenomenal. And they made a Chinese oud part 2 in 2023, and I've smelled them both. I talked about the 2023 version in my live stream for the Classics collection of Areej Dore from 2023, and so you can hear my thoughts there if you want to go check that video out. But they actually used Chinese Rosato, Chinese Gardenia, and Chinese Jasmine to really give it that blend with the Chinese oud to stay true to the name and make it feel slightly unique. And I'll tell you what, the actual history of Chinese oud, which is kind of like if you just take this wild rare oud and separate it and just have it by itself in perfumer's alcohol, which there is a review on YouTube about that I've done. The history of Chinese oud is one of the strangest ouds I've ever come across. It is absolutely singular and unique in the fragrance world. It smells almost like you took oud and cooked it under the ground like the Hawaiians would cook a pig inside of the ground, you know, and it soaked up all of the earthy bits of like the mushrooms and the vines and you know, the roots, and it's this rooty, earthy, animalic oud, extremely animalic. Here it's not so animalic because it's mixed in with this beautiful composition. It is so powerful and it makes such a impression on people. I wore this to work today. I couldn't tell you how many comments I got on history of Chinese, just on Chinese oud. So that is my scent of the day from Areej Dore, and I wish I could see how much juice was left. It's impossible because I mean I could probably take it out of this cover, but I don't want to break it. I love this thing, but I would love another one of these or a full bottle. So okay, scent of the day. So let's do. Let us do these honorary mentions because there's a handful of fragrances that have a Suede accord that I have discussed on the channel in some form or another, or I have a decant that I will be discussing on the channel. So one is called Amouage Purpose. Purpose is one of the newer Amouages released under the Fishman. I was not that impressed with Purpose, although I have it on good authority that Purpose is a bestseller for the brand right now. That's selling like hotcakes. But Purpose, I discussed it on my Amouage live stream where I think the cover looks something like this. So the cover looks like me holding this or like a picture of this sample set. And so Purpose to me, I mean, is it terrible? No. But would I spend my hard-earned money on it? No, not at all. And then the one that I'm most interested in discussing with you guys that if I had reviewed it, because remember, the rules are either I have a full bottle or I have some sort of discovery atomizer from the brand or I've reviewed it on the channel. So if I've reviewed it on the channel, even if it's just a sample, it will make the list. So one that I was almost considering stopping and not doing this until I reviewed it, but who knows when that could be. So I wanted to go ahead and just knock this out. It was called Queer Beluga by Guerlain. Apparently that's a beautiful, smooth, soft Suede fragrance. And so I'm really excited to get to know Queer Beluga. I have a sample somewhere here. I track all this in Parfumo. So Parfumo says I have a sample. I have a sample. Finding it is a totally different story. But another one is called Henley Blonde. I really rate the house of Henley. I've got some of their samples floating around, which I could do some videos on the house soon. And then one house that I actually did a live stream on a while back is called Juicebox. And so Juicebox apparently is sort of same owners as Costume National, which I never knew that, but Costume National and Juicebox are the same owners, so different brand. They're connected somehow from my understanding. And Black Powder, Micro Love, and Sirens and Sailors all have a Suede note. And then Nishane's Suede et Saffron, which is another, probably right up there with Queer Beluga that I can't wait to try. So there is a Juicebox live stream, but some of these other ones I haven't discussed on the channel, like the Nishane or the Guerlain or the Henley. And then finally, Parfums Cortana has Belladonna, Hemlock, Mandrake, and probably my favorite Parfums Cortana fragrance called Iorfante. I really like that one. That was a Luca Maffei creation from 2023, I believe. And there's a live stream on Parfums Cortana, actually multiple ones, because he sent me a lot of stuff to dissect, so you can go check that out if you're interested. And then Ralph Lauren's Purple Label, which the great Anuj from Enchante Perfumes, who sent me that beautiful vintage unboxing I did a week or so ago, sent me a sample of Purple Label that I've been sitting on for like a year. I haven't discussed it on the channel, but that has a Suede accord. And then Sense of Wood has Leather in Bourbon. And finally, Sultan Pasha has a fragrance with a Suede accord called Ambre Queer, which I'm very excited to kind of dive into that Sultan Pasha sample set one day. It's just a matter of time, but there's so many. There's like 30 or 35 of them in there. I forget how many. So we'll have to do a live stream where I probably smell a lot at once. If I go one by one, it'll take a month, even if I did one video a day. So, I mean, we could do like a Sultan Pasha month. I don't know if you guys would be interested in that, but that would be a lot. So, okay. So those are the honorary mentions. So let's do the top 19. So number 19, and if there was below number 19, this would be well below it. Whatever the worst place is, this is where this would sit. I absolutely despise this fragrance. This fragrance is actually kind of like a this fragrance taught me a lesson, okay? So it's from the house of Calvin Klein, which is a house that I actually rate some of their older stuff, like Obsession or the original Calvin by Calvin Klein from the early 80s, 1981, I believe. But this is the exact opposite of that. And I actually bought this just based on, I think it was a Joy Amin video, and he hyped the hell out of this. It's my signature scent. It's the best fragrance. And this fragrance taught me to really pay attention to reviewers' tastes. You have to take their taste into account when you're listening to what they're saying about a perfume, because this is all subjective. Everyone's completely different. But this one's called Reveal Men by Cool Bottle. I'll tell you that, by Calvin Klein. I like the bottle. The bottle's interesting, let's say. And so Calvin Klein Reveal Men came out in 2015. And it is so synthetic and fruity and sweet is the issue. So to be fair, there are some all-star perfumers in here. Rodrigo Flores-Roux, Marie-Pierre Julien, Olivier Guillotine, and Anne Gottlieb is the product developer. And she's like one of the best of the best of the best. I mean, they put her on the big projects, right? So you read that and you think, okay, this very well may be something special, because you read the note listing and listen to the uniqueness of this note listing. Candied ginger, pear brandy, mastic, and kiwano, with agave, suede, clary sage, tonka bean, amber, and Haitian vetiver or pur, okay? So the thing that bothers me so much about this fragrance is I want to appreciate it for the interesting notes like the kiwano and the agave, and I love vetiver. Mastic is not a note that you find very often in just designer perfumery, right? But then you smell it and it just smells like a sweet, disgusting mess. Smells like an absolute sweet mess, and I just can't take that. It's almost like once you get past a certain level on the sweet meter, no matter what is in there, sweetness just overtakes it all. And so even though there is a suede note in here, even though if you wait past that disgusting sweet, candied sweetness that kind of comes through, the suede does come out a little bit more, along with a little bit of the ambery sort of vetiver tonka dry down thing. And I can appreciate the agave more in the dry down, but getting there is a struggle. And do I want to wear this as my scent of the day? Oh my God, no, absolutely not. So this is discontinued, believe it or not. And I have already seen people stupidly trying to sell this for hundreds. Do not pay hundreds for this. This is a $20 fragrance, $20, $30 fragrance. So Calvin Klein Reveal Men at number 19. And would be lower if there was anything lower. So next on the list, we have number 18. And this is another one that I think is like a $20 or $30 fragrance. It's not that it's a bad fragrance. I'm going to get some blotters to spray. I definitely don't want to spray the Calvin Klein, but I will spray the Dunhill. So this one's called Dunhill Icon Elite. Now, rumor is the original Icon is discontinued, which if that's true, that is absolutely a travesty. I am very, very saddened to hear that. So Dunhill Icon Elite came out in when did Icon Elite come out? Icon Elite came out in 2016, so 1 year after Calvin Klein's Reveal Men, and it was created by Jean-Claude Deville and Benoit Lapauza, two respectable names in the industry, and it's got kaffir lime, cardamom, Sicilian bitter orange, bergamot, with black pepper, vetiver absolute, sage, juniper, sandalwood, ebony, black suede, which I don't know if that's a little bit of a cheat, but according to Parfumo, it is black suede, and labdanum. So I actually have some black suede shoes. I should have brought them, or if they feel like suede. I don't know if they are, but I'm guessing they are. But this is a classical men's fragrance in that it smells kind of, it doesn't have that sweetness of modern releases. So the reason I got it is I got a great deal on this, and I figured it would be like an easy wear from time to time. And it's a spicy, citrusy, unsweetened, woody smell. The wood can sometimes come across as peppery. The pepper definitely is coming through already. Not can come across, but does come across as peppery. The vetiver smells of high quality, and you know in vetiver, all vetiver that you smell is real. You know, it's Vetiveryl acetate, I think, is one of the most commonly used perfumers' palette ingredient, if you will, but that's a direct derivative of vetiver. So, you know, it's not like IFF is coming up with vetiver alternatives. Vetiver is vetiver for the most part. So this is vetiver absolute, just the different ways of the distillations with some sage, juniper, sandalwood, which the sandalwood in here is respectable, okay? It's not like you're getting a rip your nostrils out modern synthetic sandalwood. It's respectable in here. And then a little bit of labdanum to add kind of to the heft. But mostly what you get is the spicy woodiness. So one of the reasons why this is towards the back of the list, and remember, for those of you kind of new to the channel, I'm not ranking my favorite fragrance. So I'm not putting my favorite fragrance that has a suede note necessarily at number one. I'm trying to rank this suede accord in each fragrance, which is very hard to do and very, very subjective, okay? So the reason that this is towards the end of the list is that I don't feel like that black suede note pushes much past the generic woody, spicy element that I was describing. I think this is a good, easy wear. You could wear this to work with no problems. I think it's better than most modern designers because you're not going to get that sweetness. The black suede adds a little bit of that leathery quality to it. But it is, to me, that black suede is definitely an ancillary, secondary note. It's kind of hidden behind the main star of this show, which is the woody, spicy element. Okay, so that's why it's kind of towards the end at number 18. Number 17 is a fragrance from the house of John Varvatos. And John Varvatos, they're an interesting house because for the longest time, John Varvatos fragrances were available at discounters for very little money. Okay, very, very little money. They went through a bankruptcy is what ended up happening, and I believe it ended up being Revlon that at least is the current owner of the house. But my bottles are back when you could pick them up for super cheap. So this is EA Fragrances Inc. Now I believe they're Revlon. I haven't smelled the new stuff, but I can tell you that this is a fragrance that used to get a lot of hype in the fragrance community. I don't know if people still hype this, but it's called Vintage by the house of John Varvatos. And so Vintage is created by Rodrigo Flores Rue, who I really think is an underrated perfumer. And so this is juniper berry, santolina, white lavender, fir balsams, patchouli, jasmine, suede, tobacco, and tonka. So, right out of the gate, you get almost like this. The juniper berry here feels fresh, but also slightly, almost like you're getting a little bit of that purple, actually smelling the berry itself, right? It is a gin. Juniper berry is used to kind of freshen up gin, so there is definitely this fresher aspect to it. And along with the lavender and fir balsam, the fir balsam is slightly green. The patchouli in here doesn't come across as necessarily like an old school scratchy patchouli. It does add a little bit of weight to the composition, but it's not super heavy. But as it dries, it turns into a suede, tobacco, tonka. And I want to say, was there like a date feeling in here? I can't remember if it was, if this is the one or one of the other John Varvatos that had the date accord. But yeah, it's a good composition. It's not my favorite. I actually like the original John Varvatos for Men, the one that came out a couple years before this in 2004, a little bit more than Vintage. And then I like the ones that they did, like for example, Dark Rebel Rider is probably my favorite John Varvatos, and this is all leather. I mean, literally, it's in a leather jacket. But for Suede, try Vintage. It's not my favorite. Like I said, it's probably my least favorite from the house that I own. But I like it. I like the spicy, woody, leathery aspects that kind of come through. And the Suede here is very, very smooth. And you can almost feel, they almost made it look like, instead of just straight leather, they almost made the packaging look like you're getting, maybe that's trying to impersonate a little bit of the look of Suede. I don't know, but it is good, especially if you could pick it up like I did for 20 or 30 bucks at discounters. That's a good designer from 2006, from a good perfumer, Rodrigo Flores Rue. So that is John Varvatos Vintage at number 17. Number 16 is a designer that I believe is still in production. It's from the house of Carolina Herrera, and this one's called CH Men. Now, this came from the mighty Areej at Enchante, so thank you, my friend. I told him I was looking for kind of a vintage bottle that had this right here. The new ones have what almost, this right here looks like it's sewed on in the corner. I've never smelled any of the new ones. I don't know if there is a huge reformulation issue with a designer like this from 2009, but that's just something I thought I should mention. So CH Men is interesting because you would think I would hate this. This could easily be like a guilty pleasure for me. It's not my favorite type of leather to wear. We'll get to some of my favorite leathery fragrances to wear here in a little bit. But what this is this is a designer from 2009 created by Emily Bevier Copperman. Okay, and so this basically opens up. It does open up sweet. However, there's a couple things that kind of save this for me. And one of them is this violety note. So there's this like, there's this green, grassy, there's a very interesting green grass note in here. So it literally, it smells like you're smelling, freshly cut grass, okay? With that slightly candied violet, because of the sweetness from the vanilla that kind of seeps up through the scent while you wear it. The vanilla and the saffron almost work together to add this chemical-like sweetness that ends up coming through. And then you get that candied, almost Parma violet-like feel. But it's the nutmeg and I think the suede that literally saves this. There's some vetiver and sandalwood into the dry down. But for a designer, I mean, I have no problems wearing this, let's say, as a scent of the day. There are some designers that I really just don't want to put on my skin for a scent of the day. CK Reveal is a good example of that. I have no problem wearing this as my scent of the day, but it is one of those fragrances that I don't reach for too often. Probably the next time I reach for this, it'll be to do a full review for you guys. But it's kind of one of those things where I like it. I don't love it. I think for a designer, I think it's a good designer, especially if you like that leathery suede accord. This is a good example of a very velvety, smooth suede. And you know, if you're into designers, this is definitely one to check out. Good starter Carolina Herrera fragrance from the house, and then you can go back to the older stuff she made, like Herrera for Men from the early 90s. Which is kind of a precursor to Dolce & Gabbana Pour Homme from 1994. So Carolina Herrera for Men came out first, a couple years, and then the fresh tobacco style of Dolce & Gabbana Pour Homme came next. So yes, it's often overlooked house, I think, but CH Men from 2009 comes in at number 16. Number 15 is Roja, and you might be surprised this is this low. But again, trying to rank this suede note is very tough to do, especially in a perfume that has so many notes. So this one's called H the Exclusive Pour Homme. Sorry, H the Exclusive Black Tier, not H the Exclusive Pour Homme. H the Exclusive Black Tier. So this is one of the smaller 30 ml bottles. I think this is, yeah, 30 mils. They don't do these anymore now. I think they only come in 100 mils, if I'm not mistaken. But so the newer, one of the ways to tell the age of a Roja bottle, for those who are interested, the older ones have his signature right here in block letters, okay? The newer ones have it in a signature like this, like an actual signature. So if you come across a cap and it has his signature printed, you know it's an older bottle. But, so this is H the Exclusive Black Tier. There's a full review on this on the channel if you want to check it out. But this is in the same ballpark as like something like Frederic Mall's The Moon, okay? It's also very, very, very similar to another Roja, which I reviewed on the channel, called O the Exclusive Parfum. This is bergamot, raspberry, jasmine from grass, may, rose, violet, oud, apopanax, birch, musk, myrrh, suede, saffron, ambergris, benzoin, cashmere wood, iris, labdanum, patchouli, pepper, sandalwood, and vanilla. And the opening is probably my favorite part to this. It is big, it's bold, it's assertive. It's got that smoky, oudy, raspberry thing going on. A lot of Cypriol feels like it was made to create that oud accord, if you will. And the Suede just kind of gets lost, I think, in the shuffle of so many different notes vying for power between the musk, the birch, the opopanax, the myrrh, and the dry down really turns very laundry musk feeling into the dry down. Like you wouldn't expect that type of smell from such an expensive fragrance, but I do like the opening. I still like the fragrance, but go check out my review. I discussed some of those pros and cons, but I really do think that the Suede Accord just kind of gets lost in the shuffle with so many notes. The leather note also, feels like it could be coming from that oud accord that was created. And so I think the Suede just kind of gets lost in the shuffle. Still, I think it's a good scent. It's unbelievably overpriced, but H, the exclusive black tier from the house of Roja Parfums, comes in at number 15. Number 14 is our first sample set, and if you're if you're a normal viewer of Channel Ram, you know that if I have reviewed a fragrance on the channel, then it will be in these lists. So this one's off of a sample set. I don't have the sample right here, but it's from the house of Carner Barcelona, a house that you will definitely be hearing more about. I really rate the house of Carner Barcelona. I think they're really underrated. And this one's called Sandor 70s. So Sandor 70s is another creation by Rodrigo Flores Rue. And so Sandor 70s is supposed to be this scent that sort of is supposed to transport you back to the iconic bars of the 1970s. And this is basically a leathery tobacco fragrance. And this has both suede in the top and leather in the base. So it's suede. I remember that Osmanthus Absolute note being very prominent with Bulgarian rose, tobacco, Peru balsam, Mexican vanilla, clary sage absolute, Ethiopian frankincense, patchouli oak moss absolute, and vetiver. Very full, complex scent. I love the tobacco in here. And the suede note is absolutely beautiful. Again, it's kind of that suede tobacco or suede and leather thing going on. Which one are you smelling sometimes? The suede is in the top, the leather's in the base. Sometimes they do kind of melt together. But I remember thinking, man, this would definitely be full bottle worthy if money was no issue. But Sandor 70s was very, very impressive. I really liked what I was smelling. And I've got more samples from the house, so you will be hearing more from the house of Carner Barcelona. So that is Sandor 70s at number 14. Number 13 is a fragrance that's actually more known for its tuberose than anything else. But there is a beautiful suede accord in here. This is from the house of Richard James, and this is called Savile Row. Now, this is very sadly discontinued, okay? So Savile Row is discontinued, but I will do a full review of this. I think this is an amazing designer. In fact, this may be, I would almost be prepared to go so far as to say that Richard James Savile Row is the best designer masculine tuberose fragrance, like marketed towards men, that has a prominent tuberose note in here. There are some very impressive niche tuberose fragrances that I think men can easily wear, one of which is actually on this list. I guess suede and tuberose actually go really well together. But this is one that is kind of a little bit of a secret hidden gem in the fragrance community, if you will. Very floral, very spicy. It's got touches of basil, green tea, aromatic, sort of oily rosemary and petitgrain and ginger. The ginger is actually very prominent, but it doesn't smell like the candied ginger from CK Reveal. It smells much more refined with that tuberose, and there's lavender. So there are a lot of other masculine touches in here, like cardamom, like tobacco, like suede. I think tobacco and suede is just they're natural bedfellows. But that tuberose can put some guys off because they think about, the big narcotic white floral tuberose. And here I'll have to do a full review, but from memory, I didn't get this huge narcotic white floral that just felt like it was banging me against the head. It felt more reserved, mixed into the composition, and I'm really impressed with this. This is Yves Cesar made this. He made this in 2003. 2007, he worked on making Tom Ford for Men, and interestingly, I've always found some slight comparisons between the two, just in the way that they wear. They're both very complex scents, lots of different notes floating around, but they both wear kind of similarly in a way where how they wear on your skin. You know, they're complex, they're rich, without being dense and heavy. They wear a little light, if that makes sense. But I really like Savile Row. Like for a floral fragrance for a man, this is very impressive, very classy. And Savile Row has to do with this sort of row of shops in New York, I guess, that is like or maybe London. I can't remember where Richard James was, but it's supposed to be high-end shops where you go get like suits and shirts like tailored to you. That's what they do. They make your suit. You know, you don't just buy it off the rack. They make it to your specifications. That's the idea of Savile Row. So that's what this house Richard James apparently was very famous for. They were very famous tailors. So Savile Row comes in at number 13. Number 12 is another sample review. This is Thomas de Monaco Raw Gold, a fragrance that I really would not have minded owning a bottle. You know, the first time I tested Raw Gold, I remember thinking that is way too sweet for me. Like I thought it was going to be like CK Reveal for Men. But the more I tested it, the more I realized it had lots of different transitions. After that sweetness really started to die down, and the sweetness in the fragrance kind of did this, and you could pick up more of the leather and the suede and the honey and the patchouli, the aged patchouli, which they said was aged for over 20 years, with a cigar note. Again, you can tell suede, tobacco, here, cigar kind of go together very well, but I really like that honeyed aspect of the patchouli, and I really like the green iris from memory. The iris or the orris in here felt very green and fresh and very well done, and slightly cosmetic-y, if you will. They make a big deal about the lipstick accord. I didn't get a huge lipstick accord like there's a Frederick Mall Lipstick Rose. There's a huge lipstick accord in Lipstick Rose. I didn't get a huge lipstick accord here, but I did get a slight cosmetic feel to the iris or to the orris, if that makes sense. A little bit of civet for the animalic touch. Sweet, leathery, beautiful patchouli, beautiful orris, and the suede note is mixed into all of that. So I really liked Raw Gold. There was only 1,400 bottles for the whole world, but I enjoyed getting to sample it, and there is a full review on the channel if you want to check that out. Okay, number 11 is from the house of Atelier d'Orange ELDO, and this is the now vintage bottle because they've changed the name. It was originally called Tom of Finland. And if you're not familiar with Tom of Finland, I would urge you to look this up, not on one of your work computers, on a personal computer. So Tom of Finland was known for his homoerotic art, I guess would be a fair way of saying it. But they changed the name now. I don't know if the contract with Tom of Finland ran out or what, but now it's called Clean Suede. So suede is literally in the name. I don't know if I agree with the clean suede part, because to me, this always felt more like some sort of, it was like a aldehydic vanilla, almost like custardy feel in this, in Tom of Finland. And Tom of Finland. So there's some birch leaf, there's some pine. This is done by Antoine Lee. So if you're like me and you think Antoine Lee is kind of the bee's knees and one of the best perfumers out there, this is one to get your nose on. Yeah, it opens up almost like an oily aldehydic lemon meringue pie or something. It's very strange, but then it goes into more of the pine. I think the birch adds a little bit of that oily fuel, a little bit of like a fuel-like smell with the suede, but it's not overdone. It dries down, very wearable, lots of vanilla. Actually, if I was creating this for if I was doing a bespoke version of Tom of Finland, I would definitely turn down the sweetness on the vanilla a lot, okay? So that's my only beef, but I actually really like this. I think this is a good example of a well-done suede fragrance, and I really rate the house of ELDO. It's a house that I definitely need to do more reviews on soon. So Tom of Finland comes in at number 11, top 10. Number 10 is from the house of Eris Parfums. It's called Night Flower. Absolutely stunning fragrance. Night Flower is A 2016 release, again, Antoine Lee, back-to-back Antoine Lee releases. Guatemala Cardamom, which I remember being beautiful, having this clean, cooling-like effect with Italian bergamot, Russian birch tar, Laotian cinnamon, Indian tuberose, Suede, Venezuelan tonka bean, musk, and Indonesian patchouli. And I remember when I reviewed it at the time saying that Night Flower is... it's not misnamed, but it has a little bit of a unfortunate name, because I think Night Flower stopped many men who would have tried it from trying it, if that makes sense. Because you think about Night Flower, a lot of people think about things like night blooming jasmine and big white florals and stuff like that. Night Flower was, by Eris Parfums, was nothing further from the truth to me. I got a lot of spices, and the musky notes in here smelled a lot like you took Desandras by Antoine Lee, which also has a tuberose note in here, okay? So Desandras basically has this unbelievable tuberose note. One of the most impressive, so I mentioned there were two niche tuberoses that guys can easily wear that I would give shout outs to. One is Night Flower by Eris Parfums, and the other is Desandras. The tuberose in here is absolutely stunning, but it's almost like the last thing you would pick up. You pick up on all the other stuff, the tuberose comes last. So, and what's funny is they named it after the flower, after the tuberose in the heart. But to me, it's almost like Desandras meets Musk Ravageur, because of that musky cinnamon. The Laotian cinnamon kind of does something special in there. So, yes, I mean, if I had a bottle of that, I would absolutely wear it. I was very impressed with the quality of Eris Parfums. They use the same Atelier Francois Mathieu house, Remy's house, basically, that Les Abstraits uses. So, and that Les Indémodables uses. So if you're a fan of those house, definitely check out Eris Parfums. Okay, number 9. Number 9 is a discontinued designer, and just to show real quick the kindness of the community, this was my bottle that I bought from Areej long ago, and you can see this is Michael Kors Fragrances, a division of Parfums Givenchy, so you can tell this is the old one. And so the original Michael by Michael Kors had only Michael written here. Then the next version had Michael Kors written here. Then the reformulated version in 2014 had it written up and down, or like it's like almost a different fragrance, I would say. And somebody realized I had bought a tester, and they were like, "Hey man, I finished a bottle," and they sent me this cap out of just the kindness of their heart. So the fragrance community is absolutely awesome. So thank you for that, mate. But this is 2001. This is one of my favorite Harry Fremont fragrance. Harry Fremont comes up a couple times in here, and this is one of the Harry Fremonts. This is LME resin, cardamom, coriander, star anise, tarragon, suede, frankincense, pipe tobacco. Again, suede and tobacco go together beautifully. Dried fruits, sandalwood, plum, and patchouli. And I'll tell you what, for the colder weather, which again, I've kind of gone away from wearing scents in a particular season, but this, oh wow, this is beautiful for like a fall day. Oh yeah. I mean, the way that kind of the LME frankincense gives off a little bit of that smokiness with the spices. The thyme almost adds like a dry, leathery feel. And then you get that suede accord, which for a designer is absolutely top notch. I mean, Harry Fremont's a hell of a perfumer, in my opinion. Suede with the pipe tobacco, and then you add that dried fruits, plummy dried fruit thing in here with the patchouli and sandalwood in the base. The patchouli adds that heft. Woody, spicy, wearable, but beautiful at the same time. So yes, Michael by the house of Michael Kors, definitely the best from the house in my opinion. 2001, unfortunately discontinued, but you can still find bottles floating around. So Michael by Michael Kors at number 9. Number 8 is one of my favorite celebrity scents ever, of all time. And actually, well, I don't even know if you could consider it a celebrity scent, because it's done by a celebrity house, okay? Giza Schoen is the perfumer. The fragrance is called Kinski by the house of Kinski. I don't even want to spray this because I don't want to waste one precious drop. I love this stuff so much. I am in love with Kinski by Kinski. It is almost like a fragrance made for me. I mean, listen to the notes. Aldehydes, cannabis, blackcurrant, juniper, bergamot in the top, castoreum, magnolia, marine notes, which don't worry, it doesn't smell like an aquatic, hedione, rose, and nutmeg with patchouli, vetiver, labdanum, musk, styrax, amber, benzoin, cedarwood, and suede. I honestly think this is Giza Schoen's most brilliant, underrated fragrance. I think this is his masterpiece, honestly. I've smelled a lot of Giza Schoen's, and, you know, the stuff he did for some of these niche houses like Clive Christian and stuff like that does not compete with this. This is, for the true frag heads, for the folks that like smelling, I shouldn't say true frag heads, implying if you don't like this, you're not a true frag head. But let's say for the folks who want to smell something off the beaten path, okay? How about that? For the frag heads who like smelling something different, who like smelling the more challenging fragrances, the stuff that most people would put on and go, ugh, why would you want to smell like that? This is the fragrance for you to check out. It is fantastic. And you know what? Probably one of my favorite cannabis notes I've ever come across in a fragrance. Usually cannabis isn't done very well. Here, they've absolutely knocked it out of the park. And the castoreum kind of comes right out from the beginning. It says it's in the mid. I get a lot of leathery castoreum, and it mixes with that suede in the base. It's absolutely stunning. So again, if I was ranking my favorite fragrances, this would be probably much closer to the top. But ranking that suede note, it is still in the top 10, but number 8. Number 7 is a Frederic Malle. And this is a fragrance that actually has 50% patchouli. It is, the fragrance should contain an unusually high concentration of patchouli, 50%, and this is called Monsieur. So Bruno Jovanovic is the perfumer, Monsieur period, actually, if you're paying close attention. But this is only a couple notes. It is patchouli, it is suede, frankincense, mandarin orange in the top with this rum, okay? And maybe some musk and saffron and vanilla and stuff like that. But those are the kind of main notes for me. You do get a mandarin orange note in the top that's pretty prominent. And I think without that mandarin orange note, this would sort of, I don't think it would all come together as well. That mandarin orange is a little bit of a master stroke. It comes across as slightly boozy because there is that rum absolute, but also mandarin orange can come across as boozy. But the patchouli is obviously the star of the show, and they talked about this fractionated special patchouli that was used in here. But once you get past the patchouli, to me, the next star of the show is the suede. The suede in here as it dries is absolutely beautiful, but the patchouli is just so dominating and so domineering. Like if you want an old school patchouli scent, but done in a modern fashion, this is your answer. It's big, it's bold, it's got the scratchy patchouli. Monsieur is just fantastic, especially for a vintage lover. I'm a huge fan. So that is Monsieur at number 7. Number 6 is from the house of Gianfranco Ferre, and I absolutely positively adore this stuff. I will do a discontinued gem review on this one of these days, and this is called Pontaccio 21. I don't know if you can see it there. Pontaccio 21, after the name of the, or the address of the place where Gianfranco Ferre was headquartered. And the top just came off. Hang on. The little sprayer just came off. So the bottle is not my favorite bottle. Okay, there we go. Damn it. Why are you coming off? Get back on there. Get back on there, you bastard. Alright, whatever. I'll mess with you later. So, Pontaccio 21. Oh, it's so, it has this sharp, sort of, it's almost like a overdose of herbs in the beginning. So you get this big rosemary in the beginning, but it also smells like there's other herbs. But think about some of the other herbs that look like rosemary, that have that green, dry feel, mixed with cardamom. So spices, cardamom, a little bit of citruses, and this neroli note, which just adds a little bit of freshness. And as it kind of dries into the base, you get the floral heart, you get the green cypress, which is slightly medicinal. You get an amazing angelica note. So here is where I think Pontaccio 21 really shines. You notice we did a lot of tobacco and suede, and I love tobacco suede. I won't knock it, okay? But this kind of does something a little different. It takes this Angelica, which is herbal and green, and mixes it with myrrh. So myrrh is that earthy, resinous feel, and suede. So it's like the Angelica myrrh suede with that extremely oily, dry, herbal, spicy opening, and the beautiful floral heart, and the green medicinal cypress is stunning, beautiful, stunning. You cannot go wrong with Pontaccio 21 if you are a vintage lover. So that is at number 6. Number 5. Number 5 is literally one of my all-time favorite scents. This is, I mean, if you watched my family portrait that I put up for Dior, just search Ramsey Dior family portrait, you'll find it. Ranked. Do the ranked one. See how much I loved Jules. Jules comes in at number 5 because it's a blend of leather and suede. Again, so it's almost like, are you smelling the leather? Are you smelling the suede? This is done by the great Jean Martel, the same guy that did Paco Rabanne Pour Homme, 2 all-star fragrances. I wish he would have made more, but it's cumin, tarragon, my secret note, lavender, basil, carnation, cedar, cyclamen, jasmine, rose, sandalwood, oak moss, tons of sort of mossy green. This is a green leather. There is a little bit of freshness from the lavender and maybe some of the other things. I think cyclamen can be a fresh floral sometimes, if I remember correctly. But leather, musk, suede, amber, tonka into the dry down. And it's so it's so perfect. I mean, I could easily make this a signature scent. So Jules by the House of Dior comes in at number 5. Number 4. Number 4 is kind of a big one that most people know, or you probably smelled. It's also a combination, I think, of leather and suede, and this is Tuscan leather. Maybe like the epitome of a suede, modern kind of leather fragrance. Tuscan leather is back to Harry Fremont. I mentioned he would come up again, and so this is raspberry, saffron, frankincense, jasmine, leather, black suede. So we're back to the black suede, like Dunhill Icon Elite, a modern, probably aroma chemical with amber and woods. And it's always been this bad boy fragrance for me. You know, I always think of dingy pool halls and low light bars and dirty couches and leather jackets and stuff like that. You know, cigarette hanging out of your mouth, leathery, smoky, dirty, dingy. But I love it. I absolutely adore Tuscan leather. And so that black suede note is in the base, but it's a combination of black suede and leather, and it just is kind of like a representation, I think, of like that modern suede. This is a very modern leather type fragrance. It spawned many copies as the years went on, but Tuscan leather is a great example of a modern suede leather combination. At number 4. Number 3 is what I consider to be one of the greatest designer suede fragrances out there, in my opinion, and really one of the only fragrances from the house worth going after. And this is called DK Men. So apparently this is supposed to be like a stick shift in a race car or something, someone said. I don't know, or fuel thing. I don't know. It has something to do with a badass car, let's say. And so DK Men is very discontinued. These are almost damn near impossible to find, but DK Men is, I mean, even from the get-go, okay? Even from the get-go, this. So what I get right out of the gate is this suede accord mixed with a note that is not listed in Parfumo. Parfumo says suede, spices, tobacco, and citrus, but how I would tell you to think about this fragrance is right out of the gate, you're hit with osmanthus and suede, okay? Osmanthus can add to the suede effect. So I really think the perfumer, whoever the hell made this, is just straight up genius, because that suede note is so prominent right from the get-go. Some of these you got to kind of wait to the dry down. Pontaccio 21, you got to wait a little bit. The wait is well worth it on Pontaccio 21, by the way, but here it's just suede. I mean, from the very beginning. That's why this is number 3. That's why this is ahead of Tuscan leather. Tuscan leather does the leather suede thing. Here it's just suede. And I really feel like the osmanthus adds to this sort of fruity suede thing that you get. And as it dries to this spicy tobacco. So it's tobacco and suede. It's absolutely stunning. One of the designers from the 90s that usually gets overlooked because it's most people have a hard time getting their nose on this. It's hard to find. When you can find it, it goes for stupid money. Don't pay stupid money for this, by the way. It's not worth $500. It is very, very good though. And you know, as a fan of collecting discontinued and hard to find things, I'm very glad I have a bottle. But and I love the juice. I'll review it one of these days. It'll definitely get a discontinued gem review. But DK Men is just fantastic. So that is number 3. Okay, number 2 and number 1. So number 2 is the fragrance everyone probably thought was going to be number 1. So when I reviewed it recently, I said, there's no way this has to go straight to the top. But I have since done some hard thinking, and this is number 2 on my list. Go watch my review. I called this a sarcophagus of suede and spices, and or resins, I should have said, suede and resins. And this is called Anubis by the great Liz Moores from Papillon, who has agreed to come on the channel for a second interview. And she has a new scent coming out in a couple months called Epona, which is a leather-based fragrance in honor of her horse, I believe, who passed away. But Anubis is named after the Egyptian god with the same name, Anubis. And go watch my review. I won't go into too much. We're almost on the hour mark already. But it's frankincense, labdanum, saffron, suede, Egyptian jasmine, immortelle, sandalwood, and pink lotus. So really here, it's lots of resins. Sometimes, depending on the weather, the floral parts will come out more or they won't come out. But lots of resins. Oh, it's just so sticky. Resins, beautiful myrrh, frankincense, labdanum, and then that suede note comes in, and it is just an absolute stunner. It's so thick and multifaceted, all these different dimensions. Go watch my review. Anubis is absolutely, I have no problem recommending Anubis to folks who want to, even someone said, is Anubis a blind buy? And usually I always say sample, but if you're going to blind buy, that's one I can recommend blind buying. It's fantastic. So that is from 2012, according to Parfumo. And finally, number 1. Number 1 is maybe one of the rarest bottles in my collection, so don't go feel like you have to go hunt this down. You know, it's a journey for a reason. It may take you 5 years, you know, to acquire a bottle like this, or 10 years. If you're a collector and you're looking for these old, hard to find Guerlain fragrances, this is kind of one of those, you put it on the list and hope, cross your fingers and hope you can find it one of these days. I just got very lucky. I still have a lot more from the house like that I would love to find. Like Jeddi is a great example. Guerlain's Cuir de Russie is a great example. I'd love to find some of those unicorns. This is one unicorn I just happened to come across, and it wasn't a bad price. And it is one of the best suede fragrances I've ever smelled in my life, ever. It's so smooth and it has that Guerlain vintage kind of quality to it. It's called Bouquet de Fauns. So this came out in 1922. I don't even have to remove this to smell it. I can smell it, just the little bit that got on here from when I was filling it. And this is a Baccarat bottle from back in the day. This is absolutely stunning. Yes, it's animalic, but just slightly. It's like the suede is kind of supposed to be this velvety, silken smooth. So they didn't want to use animalics that were so animalic it would put you off, but they wanted the animalics from the old time to be there. You know, they wanted those vintage animalics there. Well, obviously at the time they weren't thinking vintage animalics, but a lot of vintage fragrances used animalics to kind of lift the fragrance up, right? The original bottle is literally a work of art. I mean, it sits in the Hall of Mirrors as a display, and it has for about a decade. It was created by René Lalique, okay? So Lalique, the great bottle creator, created this original chalice with 4 fawn heads. There's a whole backstory behind this fragrance. You can check it out. But the suede in the top is just to die for. I mean, the suede fragrance for me. I know pulling out a fragrance from 1922 and putting it number 1 is not fair to people who try and use this list to then go try to do collections and stuff like that. But I have to be honest. I have to be honest with myself. I could not put this at anything other than number one. So Anubis, don't feel bad losing out to Bouquet de Founds. I mean, this is some of the all-time great perfume as far as I'm concerned. Old Guerlains are, they live in a world of their own. You know, they are on a completely different plane as far as I'm concerned. So it's like a different spiritual plane these Guerlains sit on. So, I mean, I did an unboxing video where I talked a little bit about this. It's almost like this soft, rabbity fur, like, imagine like the soft fur of a baby fawn, you know, being before it grew up, and it's still, you know, there's just this unbelievable softness to it, and yet there's this Guerlain posh quality. Like, you can smell the high quality orris or iris combination, whatever you want to call it. It's slightly powdery, and there's carnation, there's a little bit of amber, and it's just, I mean, for me, one of my most prized possessions, okay, in the fragrance game. So Bouquet de Founds from Guerlain, 1922. Okay, so that's my Suede video. If there are any others you want to talk about, leave it in the comments. As always, thanks for watching. I love doing these videos for you guys. It's a pleasure. Cheers, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.